Inner and outer game, as I see, is the 6% of superficial communication. It's the external personality, interpersonal, social, and verbally based communication. It's that 6%. And you've heard before that around 94% of communication is nonverbal. So in the inner and outer game view, I see communication as something different here. It's just the 6% is what you're seeing in our modern Western social reality. So this reality of communication, of interpersonal and social communication, is important to our daily Western lives, but not necessarily to sexuality, seduction, and forming powerful relationships, which are based on physiological trust. So, in other words, by default, all you're seeing is nurture, the 6%. It's a forced reality built on top of nature. Essentially, in our social culture, we have lost touch with nature and energy, where we came from. So for you, it's time to get back to and leverage your inherent natural power to attract the women you deserve in your life. And I can show you exactly how to do so. So to start clarifying things more, a couple of years ago, I called each game as character. So your inner game is basically your inner character, or your personal character. And social game, I called your social character. So my definition of inner game is a little bit different than the industry definition. I call inner game your individual and unique personality or character. Anything that makes you uniquely you and differentiates you from anyone else. These are traits that women would look for in a long-term relationship in a man, but aren't necessarily judging with the greatest weight right up front. So your inner game, I see as your hobbies, personality, personal character, character flaws, interests, education, skills, traits, self-development, goals, your conscious, critical, and logical mind, your self-identity. In fact, you could just narrow it all down and say that your inner game is your egoic mind. It's your ego. And we'll bring this up again, but my definition of social game, I'm just going to read through this here. Social game is your social character, the social variables, external appearance. All right. So what's missing here if sexuality itself in men and women, but if sexuality itself for you is just limited to your personal or social behavior or your personal and social character or communication. In other words, your inner or outer game. So what's kind of missing here? Natural game. Natural game is your natural character, your natural value. It's your biological masculine identity and reproductive capability, as is such in the animal kingdom. Your natural character is your birthright and shameless power. You were born with the ability to attract, seduce, mate, and reproduce. I'm talking about the biological thread of nature, the force of life itself that you have, where you could theoretically impregnate 2 million women in one emission. If each sperm cell was with an egg, that's the kind of power we're talking about on natural biological levels. All right, Homo sapiens. So how can we just limit communication to social and interpersonal communication or behavior? we're missing the main ingredient here. That's why relationships aren't getting sexual very often if you're communicating on the interpersonal and social levels. And when they do get sexual or physical, it's when you finally tapped into the natural power. So how can the entire seduction dating industry overlook the most important thing? Is natural character, natural value, sexual value, the force of life itself. In 2006, I was the first guru to officially differentiate and separate your natural character independently from your inner game, also known as your personal character or ego, with my character continuum. So the separation of your natural, sexual, biological character and ability, the separation of this power and value from your inner and outer game means everything. The animal kingdom operates on natural instinct, and it's a different level entirely. So we're talking about communication on a different level. Somehow the dating and seduction authorities, I guess, kind of there's a word for this, shoeboxed in sexuality in the limited 6% of your inner and outer game somehow. What's missing here, by differentiating and viewing your natural game independently, your natural character, your sexuality independently from your ego and from your external social communication, means everything. It starts to bring the big picture together here to be a lot more accurate. All right, so in a way, a lot of what I teach, this is nature versus nurture at behavioral condition levels. And if you're not aware of what's going on at the root, it means you're ignorant by definition. You just don't know what you don't know. So a lot of what I teach is getting you aware of nature, getting in natural relationships at alpha levels, having it affect your energy and so forth, to behaviorally recondition yourself into a natural reality, to have the ability to automatically communicate with women on sexual levels at all times. So the 6% is nurture. Nature is the 94%. Constrictions. If you look at your behavior now and how it was formed, maybe growing up in an unnatural reality, you've just been limited to communicating on the 6% here. These certain levels that just are non-sexual, interpersonal, verbal, logical, social expectations, social judgments, social preclusions, social values, the 6% of communication is pretty much what we're limited to in our social reality. These surface levels of communication. When instead, maybe your own powers of nature have just been suppressed by all of this nurture, which is all around us, just pervasively everywhere. You turn the TV on, magazines, radio, programs, signals, the thoughts and beliefs of other people around you. But sexually, this is what's going on, these deeper levels. How does she feel emotionally? How is she responding to you physiologically? Are you strong enough in natural character when a certain man walks in the room and she gets the butterfly response? There's a different level of communication going on there. It's that 94%. So you're not just communicating as outside of you, or in a social context when you meet women. You're communicating value to women and other people at all times on different levels. And the more powerful the person is, the more accurately they can pick up these other levels of value that you have. All right, you're communicating on these different levels: interpersonal, social, natural, biological, and energy value. So sexual communication, the reality of sexual communication and attraction, is it's on another deeper level entirely beneath all of this nurture. All right, so I'm not limiting it or trying to shoebox it into the 6%. By officially differentiating your biological sexual nature, your natural game, from your inner and outer game, we get a more accurate view of reality.